Hi, my name is Alex Chapman. I'm a partner at Sheridans Solicitors and I'm the head of interactive media. I'm a solicitor. I specialise in looking after games developers and other rights owners in video games. Publishers, developers, people who exploit video games, make them, and I help them navigate some of the legal issues around that, whether it's contracts between them and games publishers, whether it's a relationship between them and the consumer, and whether it's legal issues associated with the creation of video games. To me, video games are, they're part art form, they're part science, they're part entertainment. I think what's really interesting about the way that the video games industry is perceived and the way video games themselves are perceived by parents is that they are just an entertainment form. They're frivolity, they're a bit of fancy air that it doesn't really mean anything. It's like sitting in front of the TV. But I think there's a lot more to it. And I think if you were to have a child who was really interested in cars, for example, and what they were really interested in was not just the cars and the fact that there might be a nice red sports car, but how the car worked, how the combustion engine worked, and wanted to understand how a car with an engine was able to go faster, was able to go slower, things like aerodynamics, things like what happened under the bonnet, then you'd be really proud as a parent that they were taking a bigger interest in that. And I think what we need to be doing with kids and people involved and interested in video games is helping them understand what's under the bonnet and understand that in a driving game, for example, there are amazing physics equations that are being processed every second by the computer, and that those equations and those algorithms have been created by somebody, a video games programmer. There's also a huge amount of talent that goes into creating the art assets that are in there and the music track. And if parents were to encourage their kids to look underneath the bonnet, and if kids were looking underneath the bonnet and taking a greater interest in what happened underneath, then I think people would realise that it's not just a bit of airy fluff that is used to pass the time with, but it's a really serious business where those that are involved in it are actually really, really intelligent, really bright, but also being really rewarded by what they're producing. The skill sets required to be a good games developer are the same. If you're a programmer, you still need to be very competent in the programming languages. If you're a games producer, you need to be organised and ordered. You need to be able to manage people and manage time and deadlines. So if you're an artist, you still need to be very creative and understand just artistic, essentially. If you want to run a video games business, then you need to understand finance, you need to understand legal issues, you need to understand business. And all of those things are the same. So in that sense, it hasn't changed. However, where it has changed is that the market has moved on and more people are playing games, more and more people are consuming games, more and more people are making games. And I think that presents its own challenges. There is a business around games now that maybe there wasn't 20 years ago. And not everybody, but everybody involved in games is exploring new business models. And so the games industry is a bit of a case study on successful business and how to run a successful business. You're not just producing a piece of entertainment, you're bringing together a whole raft of skill sets that go towards producing an end product. And whether it just so happens that product is a video game. If it was a mobile phone, a TV remote control, a camera, something like that, and people were really interested in how that was made, then I think everyone, the parents would be quite interested in that. What we're looking at here is a really interesting product that's being produced and all these components coming together. And I realise that hasn't answered your question as to how it's changed, but what things like this do and where the industry is going and the opportunities that are being created and being promoted in the games industry do, is they show that it's not just about creating something that people play, it's about creating a product and monetizing that product and creating a business around it. One of the very interesting things is I'm a games industry lawyer. On a wider basis, I'm an intellectual property lawyer. I look after copyright, trademarks, things like that, and represent a number of big name clients, and the firm, Sheridans, we look after musicians, specialists in the music industry, TV industry, sports, games, and a wide area of industries. And video games is just one of those, and the skill set required to be a games industry lawyer is very similar to that required to be in the music industry, film, TV, etc. Each of those is based on rights, and understanding where those rights sit, what those rights are, who owns them, how they can be exploited is vital to that. I think that the way the industry is going, there is going to be a greater need for an understanding of rights, and those people who are involved in the industry you need to kind of appreciate and understand what those rights are and where they sit. So I feel that as someone who has specific industry knowledge around the games industry and around helping those people who make games monetize them and bring them to market, I think that is something that, combined with the legal skills I have, has created an opportunity, if you like, for me to do something I enjoy in an industry that I enjoy and with people who I enjoy working with. And so there are many ways of coming into this industry. You could be somebody who isn't brilliant at school, but is brilliant at certain other things. You could be brilliant at understanding how games work and understanding what's wrong with games or what's right with games, in which case there's probably a job in QA, quality assurance. You could be great with languages and therefore go into a localization team and translate games. You could be brilliant at maths, in which case you could be a coder. You could be brilliant at art, in which case you could be an artist. You could be brilliant at history, in which case you could be write scripts, or you could be a researcher. So there are many, many opportunities in the industry, and I don't think there are very many industries like that where there are so many opportunities for people with particular skill sets to be involved in the same industry as somebody else. One of the things I love about this industry is there are always people wanting to make games. There are always people wanting to play games, and just as the industry consolidates and larger publishers and larger games developers rather start to decline, so new companies spring up, new opportunities arise. Courses like this help give people opportunities to go off and do the things they want, and the barriers to entry are now that much lower than they used to be. If you can make a game, you can get it out to your marketplace. I think the opportunities therefore just spring from that. The key though is to make sure that you're producing something that people want to play, and then you're, I suppose, getting the message to people about where they can find it and how they can play it. And I think that's the biggest challenge, I think, at the moment for people who are making games, is making people aware of the fact that their game exists.